Hey, good morning. Welcome to B Cube Sunday morning. It is actually the Sunday brunch because that is when we turn the show over to Irene and Brenda and their guest today, whom I will let them introduce. You just found some extra light that's whitening out
Yeah,
your screen.
I don't know where that came from. Let me see if I can
Well,
move.
the
Oh,
sun
yeah, there you go.
is
The
a
sun.
giant ball of burning gas at the center of our solar system, and it
Oh,
is
large helium reactor. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, but the best part about today is, let me tell you, we got a new book out, Scott's Planet. We have been
Hey,
talking
I
about
have
Scott's
I have a story in it.
Yay!
and Phil. I got a feedback yesterday from a writer I really trust,
Uh-huh.
and they're reading it, and they made a point of telling me, "Wow, Phil's story is really great."
So
Uh,
Yes.
Yeah, and I said she did a good job on it once we got the editing done. Um,
Mhm.
it was a great story. It really was. It touched on the. Um, well, I'll let Phil talk about it to the extent she wants to, but that is out. It is now available, and for those of you who are visually impaired, I'm going to explain something very quick. I put our books out on Audible, not because I can afford the $6,000 it costs to get a good reading done, because I can't, but because they have a fairly good voice that they can automatically do, and that doesn't. And we put it out there at the minimum they'll let us sell it for, because a lot of people like Brenda right now
Mhm,
is she can't read a book. Uh,
mhm.
My sister is blind. She can't read a book. So I do that. If you look and say, why is he using the AI voice? He's doing it for all of the people who otherwise wouldn't get to read uh,
Mhm.
a book, this book, that book. And so um, just be understanding that that's the thing. But it's a fun book. It's about what happens when a colony gets abandoned because they're no longer profitable and they're left on their own on a planet far, far away inside our own galaxy, obviously. And it is on a planet that is in the early Carboniferous period. So it's not about dinosaurs. It's mostly bugs and salamanders and that kind of fun stuff. So I urge you to read it, enjoy it. Phil has a great story in it. I could give you some lists of Lee Featherston, Cliff Winnig. You'll know Cliff Winnig. He's one of our hosts. Deborah Tiller, uh, talented writer. She lives in Micronesia. Uh,
Oh, that's unusual.
Yeah.
she's
Hmm.
a archaeologist. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and the more when I read her biography, it's just like, wow, um, I really got to meet this woman someday. So but that's enough about what's going on in B Cubed world. So, Phil and Brenda, I am going to leave you guys to the tender mercies of Mad, or vice versa. But don't push that button. That would end the stream.
Yeah.
Push this one. This.
We haven't had any of our regulars sign into the chat room yet. So all I can suggest is maybe they didn't know about the time change. I forgot about the time change
Oh, really?
until Mad reminded us in email yesterday. But
Uh-huh.
Because my calendar says daylight savings day.
yeah.
Otherwise, I would not have
So
had a clue.
anyway, our regular people know me, Phyllis Irene Radford. I write is as Irene Radford. I'm now a completely independent author. I got the rights back from Daw to my last two books, and I work with Bob on B Cubed, and I work with the Bookview Cafe, a cooperative publisher,
Mhm.
and I'm keep saying this is my last book, and I keep churning out more. But anyway, Madeline Robbins has been a friend and a colleague for many, many, many years.
It's awful to think how many.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And she started out writing Regency romance, but her newest books are not what traditionalists call Regency romance, even though they take place in the same time period. So, introduce yourself, Mad.
Hi, I'm Madeline Robbins. I I did start out writing romances right out of college, and I wrote 5 of them and decided that the romance thing, the marching steadily toward a foregone romantic conclusion after 5 books had gotten old, and I switched over to writing science fiction and fantasy. But I love the Regency period. It's just chock full of all sorts of things. I also, by that time, had done enough research to know that most romances are class fantasies set in, a sort of fluffy bunny version of the real world. It probably tells you everything you need to know about me, that my favorite line in the Emma Thompson Sense and Sensibility is when their hostess, Mrs. Jenkins, as they're getting out of a carriage to go to a ball, says, "Mind your slippers, ladies, the horses have been here." Because the romance elides over the horse shit and many
Mhm.
other truisms. So sometime in the late 90s, I had this somebody in passing said, Regency Noir, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a uh, single man of good fortune must be packing a piece. And I went, ah, ha, 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 that's funny. But I kept thinking about it, and what I came up with was somewhat different, a formulation in which it is a truth universally acknowledged that a fallen woman of good family must soon or late descend to whoredom, because in fact that was the case. Except that just because you've made one social error does not mean that you want to spend the rest of your life going from man to man to man. And so I decided to play with that character and um, created an alternate English Regency. It's not actually what happened. I fiddle around with history, which is fun because when you pull one thread, then something else becomes possible and you can make a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
Um, these are noir mysteries set in an English Regency with a sword-toting private eye who is a fallen woman, and merriment ensues. And I wrote 2 of them for Tor Forge, and rather like the planet that Bob was talking about earlier, I ceased to become as profitable as they wished, and they said, "Don't write another one," so I wrote something else. But I was 2/3 of the way through the 3rd one that they had originally asked for, so I wrote a 3rd and published it with a small publisher, Plus One Press. But what I really wanted was a a uniform edition with the original tour covers were sort of romancy, and I didn't want romancy covers because they're not romances. So this year I got all the rights back to everything, and I have brought out the first 3: Point of Honor, Petty Treason, The Sleeping Partner, and a new one called The Doxy's Penalty. There, for some reason, there's a P in each of the titles. I'm not sure how that happened. And they are all out from Fairy Cat Press, which is a micro publisher. And yay.
Yay, it is very good.
Yay! Yeah,
Yay.
The
I
previous
love.
ones were hard to find.
Yeah,
Well, they are available as ebooks and as trade paperbacks. And
Mhm.
again, I say yay.
Yeah, very good. And it's been a long wait for fans of Sarah Tolerance, your
mhm,
heroine. So it's good, it's good to feed the beast. People want this.
yeah,
Well, and I had never forgotten her, but I had children in high school and then children in college and day jobs and of various
Family
sorts,
crises.
family crises,
Mhm.
all those things. And I have never been a fast writer, um, or rarely been a fast writer. And these books take a lot of research, even if I'm making up the Regency that they live in. So, but I have one more, and then the series is done, and I have to now start researching that one.
Is it going to be an HEA, which it will end happily, I trust?
I hope so.
Yeah, you have to get there and find out.
I have to get there. I mean, I know I've actually written, this is insane, the last 5 pages
Uh-huh.
of the fifth book.
Mhm.
Um, Getting there from where I left her at the end of book number 4 will be an interesting process. I have set her up for an HEA, but they're going to have to work for it because,
That's good for them. As they
Yeah,
say, it builds character.
right.
yes, I don't know how much character you want it with a woman in a woman with a sword, but we'll find out.
Very, very good. I have always felt that gradually Regency romance has become something like Disneyland, where it is not real and is essentially a fantasy universe, where
Bridgerton.
every fourth man is in the peerage, and dukes litter the ground, like fallen leaves in autumn. And so it's very, when you consider the current state of the dukedom in Great Britain, where every now and then you just throw one off for being a pedophile. But they're rare. Dukes are rare. They're deliberately rare. And so that there are so many in Regency romances, annoying in and of itself.
Yeah.
And
There
it's
have
as high as you
been,
can go.
there have been more high status peerages in Regency romance than there was in the entire history of
Of Britain.
Great Britain.
Yeah, in fact, I would state that sometimes the number of dukes and earls exceeds the population, the male population.
Right.
Everybody's a duke or an earl. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's nice to get a more realistic view of the large class of lower level munchkins that supports all those dukes up there.
Right. And it takes thousands of low level munchkins to
Oh,
support one duke.
absolutely.
I
Just the
break
number
the
of people
hearts.
to, weave your stockings and polish your shoes must be very, very large.
And dust the
Oh God,
memorabilia
does
from the
I
grand
break the
tour.
hearts of the people who run great house tours because I want to see the butler's pantry. I want
Mhm.
to see the kitchen. I want to see the laundry if there is one, things like that. And they want to show you the drawing room and the ballroom and this stuff. I'm like, no, I want to see where the work got done
Mhm.
because I know enough about how the work got done. The World Fantasy Convention is in Brighton, England
Mhm.
this weekend, and I have friends who are there. And I remember just stopping dead in the kitchen at the pavilion, which was the weekend home, if you can call it that, of the Prince Regent. Um,
Although his weekends tended to run Wednesday night to Tuesday morning.
well, the weekend, as famously
Mhm.
noted in whatchamacallit,
Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is a modern invention.
Yes.
If
Mhm.
you didn't work a
It
job,
it
if
was
you did
all
work a
weekend.
job, you were working 6 days a week, and maybe you got Sunday off. If you didn't work at a job, what was this
Right.
weekend thing?
Yeah, what is
But
this
yeah.
of which you speak?
Right.
So, you've actually been to Britain to do some of this research then?
Oh God, yes. I
Good,
I
good, good.
love I I wrote my first book without having been there. Um, my first Regency,
Mhm.
and then went to England and wandered all over London, essentially looking for palimpsests and ghosts, looking for places that are no longer there, walking down streets, getting a sense of how far it
Right.
was from Guggle to Zatch. And then when the Worldcon was in Glasgow, time before last,
Mhm.
That
I
would have
was there.
been '05.
'05.
Yeah.
And my friend Ellen Clagis and I, after the convention, drove to London, which was an adventure in many different ways. Ellen is a very 20th century American girl, and
Mhm.
I am very much an Anglophile for my sins and a earlier time period kind of. So I'm and in England they just leave the castles lying around where anybody can drive past them, and so her head would snap. One there was
Mhm.
a castle. Yeah, they just leave them lying around. So she kept asking questions, which would, as I drove on the wrong side of the road, would lead to my giving her an hour and a half explication of, I don't know, the Brontes or something. And eventually we get to London after 2 or 3 days, and then I said, "I have to walk around and do stuff." So she followed in my wake very patiently, as long as we got to stop at a pub now and then. And it
Let's
was
focus on
wonderful.
what's important.
Well, yeah, and an army moves on its stomach, or perhaps
Right.
it gets thirsty. Um, and it was enormously fun because I had someone I could go, "Look, that's where Hanging Sword Alley would be." And indeed, there was a little placard that says Hanging Sword Alley on the side of a massive high rise.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of things are no longer where they were. Actually, the most useful thing I have in my arsenal of research books is an A to Z of Regency London.
Oh,
Mhm.
So,
very good.
oh, it's so cool. I can
I think that
figure out
the
where things are.
I think that the Blitz and urban between the Blitz and urban renovation, huge chunks are just gone forever,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that's a natural process in urban spaces, but it's really, it when you go back and look, it's really depressing sometimes.
Well, sometimes what they've replaced some of the buildings with, and I grew up in New York City, and there are constantly somebody took down a building at the end of my street, and there were painted advertisements on the brick that had
Right.
been covered up for 80 years or something. That kind of stuff, it's just sort of layers of
History.
urban archaeology and history
Mhm.
is just
Yeah.
catnip.
Yeah. I'm currently binge watching Poldark
Oh,
on
yes.
it's on Netflix.
Mhm.
And there's have been a couple scenes in London, and they actually had to film it in Bath because that's where they have the Georgian architecture still
Yeah,
intact.
Mhm.
You know, and just like Brother Cadfael was filmed in Hungary because they had forest.
yeah.
Right.
No,
It is there's a limit to what you can do, with they can preserve stuff, but it just doesn't you don't get that whole landscape.
right, right, yeah. So,
I love the idea of traveling to do research for the books, though. Have you made another trip, other trips since, or have you dialed
Um,
that back? COVID dials it back.
COVID sort of messed things up.
Yeah.
I wrote an entire book set in Italy, which is not
Mhm.
Regency, was essentially a retelling of Rapunzel called Sold for
Mhm.
Endless Rue, in which the one of the heroines is the witch. I wanted to know for years because it was one of those stories I read to my daughters when they were small. Why does she want the baby? When the guy that leaps over the wall to get some rampion for his pregnant wife who is craving it, and he gets caught and he has to come home and say, "Honey, I got you your veggies, but I had to promise her the witch your
Your
why
baby.
does she want the baby?" So I wrote a whole book explaining what the backstory on that is. But it's set in Salerno, where the first medical school in Europe is. And I did a lot of research, but it's hard to get the color of the sunlight
Mhm.
mhm.
or what the and I lots of photographs and lots of research and stuff like that, but I have yet to go to Italy. So when I retired, I started learning Italian badly on the theory that one of these days I will get to go to Italy. My
Do
husband
you
is
know
yes.
do you know Catherine Petrie? She lives in northern, in the Mid-Atlantic, and she's about our age, and she is, a writer, and she has gone and, and related to current events, she is working on getting her Italian citizenship. I think either her father or her grandfather were from Italy. And so she is eligible to get an EU passport if she does, a long list of bureaucratic things right here. And so to that end, she has rented herself an apartment in northern Italy.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And she is happily living there for chunks of the year. I don't know how that works out with getting the EU thing, but I think that this gooses it along. It shows you're living there and trying to become a person and not just touristing in and out for 20 minutes at a time.
My husband's father,
Yes.
or grandfather and grandmother were from Italy,
Right.
and he may have missed some deadline, which makes this impossible. On the other hand, the first time the current occupant of the White House was elected, I and my cousins investigated and found out that we could get Canadian citizenship. So I have Canadian
Very good.
citizenship.
I'm really
Unfortunately, I
sorry.
can't.
This is an issue for everybody, but I have a friend who's Jewish and she somehow has Irish citizenship, a grandparent a lot, and they've and all the Euros know this, and they've changed the law now so that if it was your great grandfather, you are out of luck. But because she's Jewish, she carries that passport on her person everywhere, and that is kind of scary. But she worries, and you cannot say this is an unreasonable worry, dear. It's just
I am
no
so
longer
tired of living in interesting times.
no.
And
Yeah.
I keep apologizing to my daughters and saying, everybody excoriates the boomers. We thought we were going to make the world better, and we seem to only have fucked it up, pardon me, more. I'm really sorry, girls.
It is not what it should be, as they would say.
No, it is emphatically not what it should be, and it's gotten so mean.
Oh,
I
it's
mean, that's
horrible.
the
Yeah.
thing that stuns me is why so many people feel that they have to be mean at the top of their lungs.
Vindictively mean.
Right.
Yeah.
I have long held that hate is more addictive than heroin.
I don't think you're wrong.
And that once you trod on that ever broadening path, you can't get out of it.
Well, it's a
And
high.
hate becomes your reason for living.
Well, and it draws you in. You were shitty to that minority once, and to justify it, you have to continue being ever shittier, and
Right.
gradually
And
the whole thing snowballs to where you are doing labor camps and gas ovens.
Yeah.
and there
But
are people
Portland,
who
long live Portland, gave the right answer.
Right. Right.
Wow.
get
Comedy.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yes.
while Chicago and LA replied, "We will fight back," Portland just made them endure endless weeks of improv.
Oh, yes. There's nothing like teaching line dancing in front of the ice. The Latino dance community came out to dance in front of the ice headquarters in Portland, and they're doing Latino line dancing in the dark, in the rain, while all of the ice people stand at the top and stare down. It's pathetic. I love it.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm just perusing the messages that are popping up on the
Very
left,
good.
but it's just mostly, it's sad to have become a place that we need to carry our papers.
Yeah, just like Nazi Germany, where
for
are your
sure.
papers?
And the guy from Wisconsin says that capitalism is mean. And Jenna Hannah Moore, it's a great relief to me being married to a triple citizen, US, UK, Canadian.
Oh, very good.
Wow.
Yeah, you got some place to go. Although at this moment, the UK is suffering from stresses and
Yes.
Well,
the poor
everywhere
Canadians lost the
is.
World Series and they are sad. I'm sorry.
Mm.
I'm interested how in the Regency, there is, or even in the very recent past for us, there was the sense that there was a noblesse obligée. If you are an earl, you're not allowed to be mean to your lesser, to your peasantry.
Well, certainly not after the lessons of France.
No,
Right.
no. Well,
The
yeah, you
effect
don't
of the
actually
French
want to wind up on a
Revolution.
guillotine. And so there's a considerable push purely from self-protection to build libraries for the lower orders and to be kind to your peasantry and your tenant farmers, and in general, not be a tyrant purely so that you don't wind up hanging from a tree. And so maybe that's the solution, is a little bit of a sharp lesson, and then they will go and build libraries and concert halls rather than ballrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is that what you get is a lot of the very small aristocracy.
Mhm.
Thank you, Jeff Bezos, you listening. We can only hope. Were they took care of their retired retainers,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. It's the middle class that starts getting mean because the middle class is working on um, business. It's that capitalism thing. And as the Industrial Revolution leads to, sorry, I'm getting into history wonk territory, leads to like the pushing aside of artisans. There was, up until, probably 1750 or so, there was a serious network of guilds, which were the precursors of unions. I used to work at the
Mhm.
American Bookbinders Museum, and so I learned a lot about guilds, particularly bookbinding. And you start getting the beginning of trade unionism, which was absolutely outlawed because, oh my God, they're going to start impeding our ability to abuse the workers. Um, and so what you get is the middle class and the industrial class starting to take over um, the responsibility to be mean to the underlings. Um, and what a working day was usually from first light until well after dark, and
12 hours, let us say.
Yeah.
12 hours at least. And the in bookbinding, which is the thing I know about, women were in the shops doing certain things, paper folding and stitching. They figured women could be trusted with that. And in England, women were allowed not only a dinner break around noon or so, but also a about 5:30, 6 o'clock, they could have a cup of tea. And finally there are heroic ballads about this. Women would pass cups of tea to the guys who were not supposed to keep working, and the men went on strike for time to tea.
Mhm.
And
That's so British.
it's
Yeah.
so British. And the heroic ballads that were sung in the guild halls or trade halls later about the striking for the right for time to tea.
Yeah.
Um, but if you didn't stand up on your back legs and make a noise, they would just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And if you have children to feed, you
You had to
kind
take
of
it.
have to take it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The tea time is more than just liquid to refresh you. It's a meal.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
not sure in the book binding shop it
yeah.
was a meal, but yes, in general it is. So it's
Yeah.
I do not see how you could. I suffer from blood sugar issues. I'm snacking constantly. I don't think I could run for 12 hours without something.
Right. And because of the wages were abysmal,
Mhm.
a lot of people, when they got their right to tea, it also meant that they got tiny little sandwiches and scones and stuff. They'd pocket the food and take it home to feed their kids because it was the only way they could feed non-working children.
Yeah.
And children started work at the age of 7, 12-hour
Um,
days.
in the United States, which I know more about in terms of
Mhm.
bookbinding, in 1850 or so, Horace Greeley wrote an editorial in which he said that a family of five in the city needed $10.50 a month, a week to live on.
Mhm.
Most industrial class men made maybe $5 to $6 a week, which meant that they were running at a shortfall. Most women who were working, which is most of them, there was the stay-at-home mom thing was like
Oh,
not a
that's
thing.
middle class. That's really.
That's middle, yeah.
That was
Um,
1950s.
might
Mhm.
make $2 to $3 a week. So, which meant that they were running at a shortfall, even with both parents working, which is why kids had to go out and start working so early. It was not that anybody, saw a child staring out the window and said, "You go do something." It was, you want to
Work or
eat,
die, work or
work or
have no
die.
dinner.
Yeah.
And of course, we did not have OSHA. I hope we
Mhm.
keep having OSHA. God knows they're probably going to try to knock that one out too. And work had never been safe. So, if you lost a finger or an
Suck it up,
arm or a
pal.
foot, you
Mhm.
know, terribly sorry for you. And, if you can work with 9 fingers, great. If you can't, well, you can always sit in a doorway someplace and have your hat out. The world was not a kind place. The world has really rarely been a kind place. And what kills me is that over the last 100 years, we've been working toward making the world a kinder place,
Mhm.
and they're just rolling it back as fast and as hard as they can. Um,
Mhm.
You would think that in self-interest, there'd be some push in the other direction. Uh, Contagious diseases will kill you even if you're rich. If
Mhm.
everybody has to fly on an airplane, and if there are no air traffic controllers and your jet hits the mountain, you are just as dead as if you worked in a factory. And, being rich does not save you when the airplane hits the granite. You would think people would grip this. This is not rocket science.
no, but it's a weird kind of
Privilegedness.
privileged blindness.
Right. It's like,
Um,
I am so rich that the airplane will stay up in the air.
they can't do that to me.
Yeah.
I am me. Well,
Yeah.
Mhm.
we're all me,
Yeah. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
depressing. So yeah, there is and particularly with this virus stuff, with the whole COVID thing, you really think that your money will keep the germs away. You really believe that
One of my
that
heroes,
viruses will not float through the air and
Right.
not at all deterred by your checking account balance. Not at all.
Right. And then
public
and
health
then
has been
yeah.
one of the great successes of the 20th century. There's a
Absolutely.
guy who used to write for the New Yorker called Bertrand Ruchet. He had a column called The Annals of Medicine. And one of the
Mhm.
things that I discovered as a young person was the um, collected things,
Mhm.
uh, 11 Blue Men, The Orange Man, The Incurable Bite, all of these things. They're wonderful, wonderful little things about essentially public health detectives who would go out into the field and try to figure out why 11 Bowery bums from all over the city of New York in the 1940s turned sky blue and wound up in the hospital. And there's a long, involved reason for this. But I was hit by this early on, and I think that people who work in public health are heroes, even before
Yes.
COVID.
Absolutely. And there's you don't really want to go back to where plague sweeps the city and bodies are heaped in the street. This is not a good look on anybody.
No,
uh and it's so it's to that level of simplicity. How can you not realize that these things are good? Things like clean water. uh they you know the song, "They built this city on rock and roll." No, urban structure is built on a clean water supply and
and
sewage systems.
adequate sewage.
Adequate sewage systems makes the city habitable. That's how you can have a city without having a huge mortality rate in the city,
Look
which
up the Great Stink.
yeah,
Yeah.
or even like the way Rome's population was sustained in classical times only by people coming in from the countryside to work. If you just let the population stay there, gradually everyone would die of disease because there was no sewage worth speaking of. You peed into the river and hope for the best.
Right. I read once, going back to the Regency, that the biggest problem in Regency, period, was horse shit.
Oh,
There
yeah.
were so many there were more horses in London than people, and most of them concentrated in small areas where the wealthy lived. And they have to eat a lot to be horses, but beasts of burden. And if you eat a lot, you gotta shed a lot.
And there's a horse pee, they're
Mhm.
urinating just like everybody, and you can't even shovel the pee up,
Right.
No, but you
it
can
runs
sweep. This
into
is
the
I
Yeah.
use a whole cadre of my Baker Street irregulars, sort of in the tolerance books, street sweeps who
yes.
were not,
Mhm.
who were there to push the horseshit and the urine out of the way with their little brooms and get a farthing for it from people who wanted to cross the street.
Okay. Yeah, we have some comments, going back a ways back to air traffic controllers are used mostly to control traffic around airports.
Mhm.
Money can allow a safer lifestyle. Rural children tended planting and weeding as soon as they could walk. Talk about working to death. And known as Red, the Mask of the Red Death. And cities were built on beer as the main
Clean
clean
fluid.
drinking supply. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
There are things you resort to if the water is undrinkable.
Mhm.
And I love the idea that you could always make a living, even if you're quite little, as a street sweeper. Uh,
Street
Mhm.
sweepers,
it-
gold finders, who were the ones who cleaned out the privies.
Yeah,
right.
Um,
And people who are, scouring the banks of the Thames for dropped items, the
the
there
people
are
who
still.
collected the horse manure and carted it out of the city to be used as
Yeah,
fertilizer, who made
mhm,
quite a good living. If you were willing to deal with the
shit.
stink,
Mhm.
yeah,
with the shit.
Or even digging out human privies, and then hauling the
yeah.
human waste out to
Right,
be
I
used
right.
on
have a
fuel.
set piece in the second Sarah Tolerance book that hinges around a gold finder, a privy cleaner who
Mhm.
discovers something that has been dropped into a privy which has jammed up the works, and he is scandalized that anybody would do this to an honest privy.
Yeah,
I love infrastructure. I love
yeah.
things.
Brenda. Yeah, Brenda. You mentioned scouring the banks of the Thames. They're called mudlarkers, which
Mhm.
Mhm.
You can take
Cheryl
tours now.
Alexander just reminded us, and they're still there.
Oh, you can take tours. You can sign up for a mudlarking guided tour because they don't allow you just to go over and dig on the banks of the Thames anymore. It's easy to get yourself killed. So if you want to do it, you sign up with a tour and the tour guide takes you through and you go and look for bits of tin in the mud. It's great.
Yeah.
And every now and then, not at all rarely, they find things that were dropped over the side in the past. You are taking the ferry across and you dropped a coin or your button fell off or something. So you
Oh
find
yeah.
all kinds of stuff even to this day.
Yeah. And Charles Smart just remind us, don't forget chimney sweeps.
Mhm.
Um,
And
everybody.
criminals.
Yeah.
I mean, you trained, you read Oliver, you trained as a small child if you fell in with or your parents were criminals, fences, um, pickpockets. It was great to have a small child who could crawl through a window and then go downstairs and let
Unlock
the
the door.
adults in to burgle. Um, this was a survival thing, and the law at the time was, especially in London, they didn't have a police force, formal police force, until 1820,
Hmm.
and most of the law was it required citizen action, and most of the law was about protecting property. So if somebody was murdered, they had no detective force. They had no
Right.
way to go out and find out who this was. If they were very fortunate, maybe it would become obvious. But in most cases, it was find the property, get the property back. And what you had was thief takers who were like freelancers who very often were in league with the thieves. So
Hmm.
you get your silver tree service stolen, and you hire a thief taker to find the wretches who did this and return your property. And the thief taker goes to the pub and says, "Bruno, do you do that job? Okay, I'll buy it back from you for this amount." And he goes back to the owner and says, "Well, I got it back for you, but it's going to cost you twice whatever he charged the thief." And this
Hmm.
made a very tidy profit
For
Right.
um,
everybody.
for
Yeah.
everybody
The
except
thief
the
got a
homeowner.
profit, the thief taker got the profit, and the owner of the teapot got his silver back.
Yes.
Who's unhappy? Nobody's unhappy.
But the way that you dealt with an assault or a murder is you yelled, and it was common law that everybody was required to go chase after the bad guy.
Yep, hue
And
and cry.
the
It
hue and
goes,
the hue and
it
cry,
goes back
and
to
then you turned
before
it
the
over
Magna Carta.
and then you turned it over to the beadle, or the bailiff, or there was a whole parish system. None of this had anything to do with what we think of as police work, but the British in particular were very against the idea of a standing police force because they saw them as
Tyranny.
an arm of the state, and it would be like the French police, who were only there to capture people who were rebelling against the established order.
Okay. And Mr. Bob comments that eating the rich would have resolved this problem.
Well, yeah, but they're crunchy and stringy, and
and frankly, there are members of the rich whom you would not want to eat. They're just clearly, diseased meat, and probably would give you something nasty if you ate them. So no. Compost.
When you think of public health, the Doxy's penalty has a lot to do with syphilis. There's a lot of syphilis.
Oh, I remember you were researching that.
Oh God!
And did you
you
read the book Pox, right?
Yeah, which was fascinating.
Yes.
But the thing that stuns me is that everybody in Europe did not have this disease, because it is
so contagious, and everyone's leaking out of beds like salmon.
And you go out, and young women were supposed to keep themselves pure before marriage, but young men were supposed to sow their wild oats. And so it's quite possible that a young man goes out, and because syphilis can go into dormancy for many years, you can come home and on your bridal night give your lovely bride the gift that keeps on giving. And it is just stunning to me that statistically the entire of Europe did not wind up pox-ridden. No, I would not want to eat Trump. Ooh.
No.
I can't imagine any amount of cooking and sauce that would render that palatable.
No. I think the only thing that would possibly help you is pickling or smoking, and then that would kill all the bacteria. My question is, at what point did syphilis actually arrive in Europe? There's a case to be made that it was from the Americas. Another idea is that it came from the East, but there was a period of time before it was there.
A lot of it. The last theory I read, let's face it, they're all just theories.
Yep.
Marco Polo, when he opened up the East.
Oh, I like that. Blame Marco Polo. Sometimes you can blame the Americas, Columbus coming back, or I don't know.
Well, that would at least get some of their own back for smallpox.
Yeah, and measles and typhus and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
But it didn't used to be native to Europe. I don't think syphilis, for instance, was known in classical times or in the early medieval period. So, there's a moment when it arrives and then hijinks ensue. And I can see that previous to that point, you just never thought about it. And then when this new thrilling disease arrives, everyone's behavior, and that's what's so fascinating about it, that book about pox, is the analysis of how it affected people's imaginations. You would develop this phobia about sex, but you of course had these powerful drives, your testosterone forcing you along, and so you're being ripsawed between these two very powerful forces: the desire not to have your nose fall off versus the desire to get your ashes hauled. Hard.
Whole new industry, goat skin condoms.
Yep.
You know that if you go on YouTube and Google it, you can actually see somebody making a condom out of lambskin intestines, and there's a whole process: the soaking, the scraping, the et cetera, the drying and carefully rolling. And it's a YouTube video, and you can watch her do this. It is quite an elaborate process. It takes a long time, and you can see
they were expensive.
They were expensive until the invention of vulcanized rubber, and then suddenly cheap.
The other thing that was popular was the cures, a
Oh,
lot of
yes.
which
Mercury.
mercury,
Yeah.
which caused just as much trouble as yeah. And very often you would go through the cure and the symptoms would go into abeyance because that's what they were going to do, but nobody
Uh-huh.
realized that at the time.
Mhm.
And then 20 years later, you start showing up with tertiary syphilis,
And your nose falls
and
off.
your nose falls off, or you go insane, or you have children who are marked with pox sign. And you sit there going, but I took the little blue pills. I did the mercury douches. I did all the things that they told me to do. And how could this have happened? I was cured. No,
No.
honey, you
Yeah.
weren't.
And
Um,
and they never figured that out for a long time. There was a lot of analysis, and it was a mystery,
yeah.
and a medical mystery for a very long time. And we don't and at this moment, antibiotics is on top of this. And one of these days, particularly if they keep on screwing with public health, it'll a super strain will develop, and then we will have fun.
Yeah.
You have a
And
strange
also,
interpretation of the word fun, Brenda.
Excitement.
yeah, there's this whole notion that vaccines are poison.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
exactly.
one of the one of the many reasons I gave up line dancing, because so many of the women in the group were absolutely convinced that vaccines were poison, and it was a plot fostered by the communists.
Oh, wow, that goes
Or
back.
it was a plot
Communists?
fostered by the blacks or fostered by the Asians. Whoever they were hating this week,
It was their fault.
it was their fault.
I
But
had to.
they would rather poison themselves with horse enema than take a vaccine.
I
I
remember
actually I was
Yeah.
in France
dimly.
at the time, and I told a friend about the uh do you remember the anal UV flashlight? I
Mhm.
tried to describe this in my very faulty French to a French acquaintance, and when the meaning finally percolated, he laughed and laughed. He could not believe that Americans were this stupid.
Mhm.
Well, I hope, I mean, I am, because I'm old, I remember when I was a small child, just before the polio vaccine was invented
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
sent out into the world. Um, we spent summers in Massachusetts, but they would be there were swimming pools, public pools that had been a lifesaver for kids for years until
Polio.
they until they started realizing that it was so communicable, especially in places like swimming pools. They would close down the pools in the summer when kids needed them the most.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
things like that. And I
Torture.
can still remember little bits of this. I had measles, I had mumps, I had German measles, to which I still have no resistance. Apparently, I've had multiple rounds of MMR, and rubella immunity just slides right off me. None of these things were fun, and each of them has the potential for
Permanent.
enormous damage. And
Mhm.
people now think, oh, measles, ha ha ha, spots, measles encephalitis, all this stuff.
Right.
And
Mm.
Yeah.
it's like,
We are of an age to remember the cautionary videos, or they were basically slide film
it's like,
strips,
yeah,
Mhm.
with all of the iron lungs, rows and rows and rows of hospital space taken up by iron lungs, people infected with polio. And that's going to happen again if they take our vaccines away.
I was talking to I think this is my husband's best friend in high school, but somehow he has I don't know even know where he got this idea, but he said that masks actually cause disease because they keep all of your germs in with you, and so you get sick. And
Hmm.
there there's something wrong with this already. You already have those germs with you. It's not like they're new at that point. So but it wasn't worth arguing with him about this, and that is what's really sad is that you can't argue people out of this. There's nothing to be done except to ignore them, and wear a mask when you're with them. I just don't know what else you can do.
Yeah. So we're closing in on the last 10 minutes of our time together.
Good God.
We started talking about Mad's rebellious female in the Regency times in her new book. And remind us again, Mad, what the book is?
The Doxy's Penalty. It
Okay.
is Sarah Tolerance, book 4.
Okay. I remember reading the first 2, at least. I don't remember if I read the third. They are excellent books and a very different view of life during the early 19th century. And we have more from there to the lack of vaccines. But anyway, so what are you, Brenda? We kind of slid over you in the beginning. So what are you up to now?
Well, my medical issues are annoying, and I had my retina doctor declared that I had to have surgery immediately, and so zip, suddenly I was under the knife, and now I'm recovering, and then the minute I turn around, they're going to do it the other eye, and so that will be very, very exciting. So my the rest of my year is sort of laid out in a really boring and irritating way, but I am thinking about writing a novel, and it will be about combat robots. And it was inspired by the downtown architecture of Portland, Oregon. There are some cornices on the buildings downtown, and these would date back to like the 1930s or the 1920s. But when you look at them, and it's obvious that they are transformers perched on the edges of those buildings. It's obvious. And who would put transformer robots on the top edge of buildings? I have figured it out, but I have to figure out how to. I have to figure out how my heroine should get hold of these things, and then what is she going to do with them? I don't think she needs to use them to defend the United States against invasion. But then what can you do with them? There is I'm waiting for an inspiration to come to me about about fun things to do with combat robots that don't involve destroying cities. But I'll think of something.
You always do.
I know, it's frightening, and I have a couple of irons in the fire, and it's like knitting when you have no plan. You're just pulling the yarn, and there's going to be a sweater. I just keep on knitting and seeing how it'll turn out. There's no plan.
Yeah, Mad, do you have a book cover?
Yes, look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Yeah, there you go.
That's pretty. I'm so happy.
Bob's going to add a link somewhere in there, but it is. I like the idea of getting it up in conforming covers.
Yes.
Yeah, people like to have a nice bunch on the shelf.
Yes, I'm very, very happy with them. This is not to say that the covers that Tor and Plus One did for the other books were fine, but they were, especially the Tor covers, were more romancy. And at least in the first 5 books, anybody who went in hoping for a happily ever after and a frothy romance would have been
disappointed.
The first book is essentially plotted along the lines of the Maltese Falcon. And I knew going in that essentially the same thing that happens with Bridget O'Shaughnessy and Sam Spade was going to happen with the Earl of Vercellian and Miss Tolerance. And my writer's workshop kept, at the end of the book, kept saying, why, what, but couldn't you?
But you owe us that happy ending.
No, absolutely not. She could not be the person she is and live happily with this person. And there you go.
Good for you. It's that Peter and Harriet Vane, Lord Peter Wimsey and Harriet Vane thing. This is not going to work out. More work needs to be done.
Yeah.
Good.
As it always does.
Well, yeah. I think that that's the problem with romance. I think it's been calculated that every other book sold in the United States is a romance novel. Every book of fiction. Romance dominates the fiction market. And that means that everybody is sort of people pick up a book set in that period and they expect it to be a romance because they all are. And so that's
Mhm.
you're doing an unusual thing, in other words, have it not be a romance.
Well, there are more books now that are at least playing with the seedy underbelly of
Mhm.
Regency
Mhm.
London. I used to
Mhm.
have people come up to me and say, "Oh, don't you wish you lived then?" I'm
No,
like,
you do.
No.
"Hell no.
No, no, no. You were not
Disease,
born in the right
lack of
the
sanitation." And
mm-mm.
I know I would not have been the Duke's daughter. I would have been the daughter of the ostler, and I would have died early of a wasting disease and pockmarked.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So,
After a
yeah,
long starving period of your life. No,
yeah.
no, no,
Mhm.
don't do that. We do not appreciate our modern advantages, and
Yes.
what terrifies me is that we will forget and just sort of flush them all down the toilet, and then we'll feel really, really sad, pockmarked and starving as we will be.
Yeah. Yeah. I really do appreciate modern plumbing,
And
Oh
modern
God, yes.
medicine,
and modern
I realize
medicine.
that what I have now with my eyes is what was blinding my father in his age. He had went essentially blind in his 80s. This is what they were unable to cure then. And this is
Mhm.
not even like a generation. It's like 10 years, 15 years. So it just shows you what you can do if you sink that money into medical research.
My
Right.
father had macular degeneration,
Right.
and because he had studied perception, he helped design the perception lab at Princeton. He, as he put it, spoke eyeball, and he
Mhm.
and his ophthalmologist actually co-authored a couple of papers together because he
Mhm.
was able to explain some things. Um, yeah, I just saw Cheryl Alexander's. I watched the 1900 House and kissed my washer and dryer every morning when I get in the shower. God, I love hot water. What a brilliant
Yes.
thing.
Yes,
God bless
it
the
is a
people who
wonderful
invented the
thing.
hot water heater.
And
Mhm.
I realize that we sort of live in a bubble of relative opulence. You have hot water, there are people in Malaysia who do not, but we should hang on to these things and we shouldn't lose them
God,
because
yes.
and we should, if possible, let other people in this planet acquire hot water as well. But it is to lose it all to stupidity. That's just, how can we be so dumb? It makes me want to
Mhm.
bite.
Right.
And also
Um,
to lose
I was
what we
just gonna
have
say,
to social
mm,
stupidity.
Oh, yeah.
Women
mhm.
should go back home and take care of their children. And yeah, anyway.
Oh, it's just so annoying.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know if any of you watch Time Team, and on which is British archaeology,
Mhm.
and every time they find hypocaust tiles and a
Mhm.
Roman site they're digging, okay, there has to be a bathhouse here. Therefore, we have to have someone of status
Mhm.
because the common workers, who were very often slaves, native Britons who were the slaves of the Romans, they were not worthy of a bath. Think
There
about
were
it.
there were public baths, and you could just roll on
Right.
up there and for a couple of, coins, hang out and,
Yeah,
wash your hair.
but if you're at a mining site in rural Britain,
No, then it's a little
the foreman gets it.
oh,
Okay.
it looks like somebody has vanished. Where did
Mad.
Oh, well, goodbye, Mad, goodbye. I don't know where
Bye,
she went.
Mad. Thanks for stopping
I
by.
am so pleased
That
that
is
she was able.
coming back.
Okay, I don't know what
Okay.
happened to her, but, mysterious computer things.
Yeah, but
But on the other
Bob is
hand, here we have Bob. There you are. You're back again.
hi.
And but it is so great that you were able to come. I am thrilled to hear that there's more Sarah tolerance, and people should go and request it from your library
Oh,
systems.
please, yes, please, please.
That is actually a thing that you can do to support your authors that is absolutely free. You paid for all those books in your public library already, guys, your tax dollar. So you can contact your library and say, I would
Now,
like Phil's book. I would like Mad's book. I would like Brenda's book. You've already paid for them. Why should they not get books that you would like to read?
yeah. And
Amen.
don't forget the BQ bit of anthology.
Oh, yeah, that would be very good because that's of current relevance.
Okay.
Definitely.
Sneeze is past. Mhm.
Well, thank you
forget
so much
who
for
it
letting
was.
me play.
I am so
Yeah.
glad you could come.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Okay, Bob, the show is yours for the last
The last
Oh
25
thing.
no, it's
seconds.
always mine. I sometimes sit behind and uh, touch the keyboard. But Mad,
Mhm.
that is a wonderful cover. Um, and I am glad you got that book out.
Yay.
Me too.
I do hope that you manage to make the Radcon world with these with your cohorts here. And just a reminder for all of the writers out there, and I know that I'm setting on a submission by Brenda.
Oh, that's
Alternative.
right.
Oh yeah, and it didn't suck.
That's
Well,
high
hang
praise.
on, hang on.
So
It's looking back
nice.
at me. Oh, I remember. I remember. It was ivermectin. I realized it was the perfect murder weapon. You
Oh yeah,
remember the aquarium chemicals that were supposed to preserve you from COVID? Well, since they don't, it is a perfect murder weapon. You could murder somebody, and everyone would say, "Oh, the poor child. She believed what Tucker Carlson said about aquarium chemicals. The poor thing." And here she is, dead.
well, if she believed it, maybe it's
Yeah.
you know.
So once you start, you can. There are just so many good ways to kill people. It's really very nice. Whatever
Oh
else you can say about this day and time, my husband's friend who believes that masks poison you. There are things that could be done about this.
well, I know that that is one of the great things is the reasoning that we have that can go into or the research
Uh
that
huh.
I still believe that all writers should have to register with Homeland Security so that they can keep
I'm
them
still
from having.
partial to the
Course.
I'm
Well,
still partial to the frozen leg of lamb.
Yeah.
Oh, just a
You know,
blunt.
toss the guy on the head, put the lamb in the
in the
oven,
oven
and
and baste it with a mustard sauce for 2 hours and then eat it.
absolutely,
Yeah.
Absolutely, I think that
and
that's
invite the
Murder
cats
She
over for
Wrote did
sandwiches.
that with a fish, a salmon. The frozen salmon, a big one, was used as the blunt instrument, and then it was left on the counter. It thought it was cooked and eaten in the restaurant.
there is that uh and this is your classical mystery analysis. There's the weapon, there's the method, and the motive. So eventually you wind up to motive. What is the motive for socking you on the head with a frozen salmon? And
Because you like salmon and you want to have an excuse to eat it.
but then you would think that everyone would want an excuse to eat salmon, even
Oh,
the
If you
cats
could
in on
only
it.
eat salmon because after you had used it as a murder weapon, that would perhaps be well. That's a very limiting.
Exactly.
Um,
And it's not like there aren't plenty of salmon at certain times of the year. So it's this is silly. We need to think about this in a better way.
Yeah, I
And
know. Well,
well, we're running out of. We've
yeah,
run
we
out of
cannot murder
time.
random people
I
just like
know.
this.
That's why I know. But anybody, I'm not gonna say it, but
No, don't say it.
the hey,
Okay,
don't laugh.
thank you,
Everybody
Ned,
knows.
for coming. I have really enjoyed touching base with you
Yes,
again.
this
yes.
was delightful.
And
Thank
it's
you so
always a
much for
pleasure to
having
see
me.
you.
Okay,
Everybody
come
knows.
back.
Yeah, and we'll be down in of course, World Fantasy is down in your area this
I
coming
know.
year. So of course we'll see you then. Must get together and do something.
I'm sure we can think of something to do.
We'll be brilliant.
Happy Sunday, everybody.
Yes. All
Okay.
right. Arrivederci.
Okay, now
Arrivederci.
what I was trying to get out before I was helped is just a reminder that alternative liberties too. The
Uh-huh.
one where that should Trump ever read any story in it, I would like him to feel like he's just been slapped across the face by a thawed out salmon. Um, the It's taking submissions right now, and you're going to be in some pretty good company. I mean, we've got uh, uh, I can't tell her if she's been accepted or not, but it's a good story. So we've already accepted probably a half dozen stories, and there's some real good work in there. We're taking submissions until December 20th, and then we're going to have to try and have it out in time to celebrate at Radcon
Oh, that'd
Uh,
be nice.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we're going to have 3 or 4 new stories for RadCon. Now, RadCon, so you know, used to be one of the largest or the second largest, depending on how you counted people, convention west of the Mississippi. And it's a wonderful little convention that is that we are truly looking forward to. And every guest that's ever come has commented on it still had the small con feel to it,
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
despite being uh, rather, you know. And so come, and here's the best part about it, it's a small enough hotel that the guests of honor, we don't have rooms available to give them to hide out in.
So you can just waylay them and beat them in the hallways.
Hey,
Mhm.
you
You.
know, when we had Gardner Dezois showed up, you
Oh,
know,
he was such a great man.
he is or was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know he's deceased now.
He
And
was
he's
one,
not the hide in a room sort
Hi.
Gardner. Gardner was.
anyway. No, he went down to the diner that's right in the middle of the hotel, and he was sitting down there just holding court, and people were coming down there and just they thought it was the greatest thing in the world. While he looked at me and said, "What do you want me to do?" And I said, "You're doing it." Uh, it uh,
Yeah.
because I
On the
always
other hand, Joe Haldeman, the night before, was in the green room stuffing packet envelopes, and somebody brought him a guitar at the opening ceremonies, and he sang Filk.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
hey, he was pretty good, and
Mhm.
we had CJ. I think it was CJ
Hmm.
and Larry Niven working the bar. Uh,
Mhm.
and when
That was at the toxic waste party.
no,
No.
this was at Quark's bar.
Oh, okay.
We had him back there doing that, and then the woman I had checking IDs, 2 cops showed up just to check out the place. She wouldn't let him in.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's Radcon is a wonderful little convention with wonderful people, and it's really I look forward to being back there for just a visit because I get to go do the convention, then I'm off to Rainforest, which is a fun place to be. So y'all show up at Radcon, buy Madeline's book, buy
Buy
me
any of
this new.
Brenda's books. Buy my books.
Yeah,
Buy
and
books. Buy books.
yeah, and do that library thing because librarians like that.
And
Right.
Oh
Christmas
yes.
is coming. That's the thing to remember. And God, I do love that book cover. Uh,
Okay.
so that said, later, guys, everybody wave goodbye with your best
Bye.